What's up, Liron here. Thank you for joining me in another video. In this one, I'm gonna paint this beautiful scene with a bunch of people. If you've been following me on Instagram, you may have already seen me paint this in the stages. Now you're gonna see it in a video. Now what I wanna say, a lot of people have asked for it, is with this process I'm simplifying. I'm simplifying the shadows, and instead of getting a variation in values, this is medium value, so kind of light, lighter, darker, I'm getting my variation from the colors and the temperature. Okay, so this focus isn't on matching the level of darkness. We're gonna flatten all of the shadows to have the same value, but play it on the variation in temperature and color side of things, okay? So I just wanna mention, my course, Frustration Free Watercolor, is out. If you're frustrated with letting go, enjoying the process, doing these kinds of exercises, you want to check it out in the description box below. Let's get started. So let's kick it off with the drawing process. Now, this isn't really the focus or the most important part here, so I'm going to go through it as fast as I can. I'm just putting in some indications to where the figures are going to be. That's the left figure, the rightmost figure. And I'm trying to simplify the drawing stage for you as well, so just a couple of simple shapes. So that's the cap, let's make it a little rounder. That's the head, like so. And you've already seen this, if you're on Instagram, you've probably seen me draw this. Let me zoom in a bit. Again, trying to keep rather simple shapes. That's his arm, upper body. This kind of goes in like that. That's the other arm, kind of like this. And if I get the proportions not perfectly, that's fine. It's still gonna look good. And I always say, you know, with watercolor or painting in general, you can get away with a lot actually when it comes to proportions. The painting actually is responsible for a lot of the final impression, so you don't have to be perfect with drawing. And I'm gonna make the head a little smaller. Overshot it. That's not the part of the head on the left here. And fix and correct mistakes, because mistakes will happen. It's just a part of it. But in any case, that's the dude. Then we're gonna have the other figure, and that's approximately where her blouse is. And just building it back and reverse engineering where the rest of her is gonna be. That's one arm, hand, hat, face. And notice how rough I'm being here in terms of accuracy. But that's definitely good enough. Now she has her other arm here, the blouse or shirt kind of around here, then the legs. This is a bit tricky. The legs are always a challenge, but again, I'm kind of simplifying in this example, so that's fine. So on the cap, we have this area that's shaded. Here we have the light passing through. That's the hair, ear. Now on the shirt, this is really important because that's the more major shadows. We have this kind of a thing here on the shirt, and then a bunch of smaller shadows around here. And again, what we're doing here is splitting it into light and dark, and then preserving a somewhat even value throughout the darks, okay? That's the whole point of the exercise. And with that, we're pretty much done. There is a parasol behind, like so, that normally I wouldn't put, but let's put it in and see what happens. Let's just have a part of it show. Now the shadow on the ground, so it's kind of like this, going all around the figures, like that. Now they cast shadows as well, so that's a shadow, that's a shadow, that's another shadow. There's a person behind this guy that I just completely removed. It's not really important for what we're doing here. So now let's get to painting this. Now to me, this is really where the fun begins, because what I'm gonna start doing now is taking care mostly of color harmony and fun stuff, okay? And not worry too much about values, because we're gonna flatten all the shadows into one value, as I mentioned. So I'm gonna start blue with his cap. Let's start with this silver black velvet brush, size 8. I'm trying to use that. Maybe I'll switch to the synthetic Princeton. And I'm holding the brush fairly close. It's a small piece, and I don't necessarily want to be, you know, super loose here yet. Maybe later. So here is the cap. Just a bit of blue. There's a highlight within it, like this, and the highlights I'm just again treating them as white, okay? That's all I care about. Now let's add a bit of that brown mess onto here. That's the hair. I love to use the colors I have already on the palette. Now for the skin tone, believe it or not, I'm just gonna use a pure kind of warm red, like a cadmium or a pyrrole scarlet will work. And this creates a beautiful result in my opinion and really hints at a skin tone. Okay, but it's fairly dark as well. So like that. And now I'm gonna connect this all to the shirt. It's gonna be super duper yellow, but again, I'm gonna skip anything that's in the highlights. So I'm just working on where the shadows are. And I'm simplifying the shape of the shadows as well, by the way. I'm gonna zoom in a bit more so you can see the details. Here we go, hopefully that's a little better. So I'm simplifying the shapes of the shadows as well, because it's a small piece again, and my emphasis here, I'm gonna put a bit of red in there. My emphasis here really is just the unification of shadows and lights. So while I have this yellow, I'm gonna put in this group of shadows to the left, but then very quickly I'm gonna get rid of it and go back to my red. Okay, that's for the arm. And notice I'm just putting it in red. And I'm aiming for kind of a mid value, but nothing too complex aside from that. So just a mid value, okay? Other arm as well, with a bit of a highlight gone behind the shirt. Next up we have the pants, and these are darker, but again I'm gonna completely flatten the shadows. So it may be slightly darker just due to maybe inaccuracies or something like that, because no one's perfect, but generally it's gonna be very similar. Now notice how I don't stop. Everything touches everything. And that's a really important part, because what's beautiful about watercolor is that flow. Okay, I always say the flow and what makes watercolor unique is the thing you want to put emphasis on. You see, you want to emphasize these good qualities that you can't achieve in other mediums, because that's the strength. That's really where the strength of watercolor comes from. So as I get to the edge of the pants, without taking a break, I'm moving straight into the legs. Now what's good about this exercise, one more time, is it's fun. So if you're being challenged by being too tight, or over mixing, over complicating the reference, this is an excellent exercise. So it's kind of an alla prima thing, but it's also simplified, and you can see this kind of an exercise and many more, by the way, if you check out my Frustration Free Watercolor course, as I mentioned, as I'll surely mention in the outro. You really want to check that out, because if you're finding yourself having a hard time to just simplify and relax and enjoy, then it's really for you. Because that's the whole essence here. And once you're able to do that, it's unbelievable the results you can get. Really, kind of instantly, it's a mind shift. Because the freedom means a lot again. Now I'm going to connect him already to the shadow. With the shadow, I'm going to use a pure blue. Okay, so I'm adding a bit more blue to the pool. One thing I noticed that a lot of beginners make is, that's good enough I think, is they mix everything together into a very homogeneous pool. You don't need that. I'm fine with having a bit of blue here, a bit of red here, a bit of, just let it all kind of touch and mix and mingle. It just produces some very nice results. I kind of messed up here with the hand, but that's fine. In any case, yeah, you really want to allow these to mix wherever you can, in an interesting way. Don't just get a blue and then turn the whole thing into one blue. Use the blue here, then you can go back and visit that warm mix, okay? See, that really can help. Next up, we have the other woman, so I'm just using a muted gray for the hat. Maybe I'll add a bit of Verona Gold Ochre. Most of my paints are Daniel Smith, some are White Knights. I love all brands, really. I love so many brands. As long as it's artist grade and not student grade, I love a lot of these. So here's the shadow under the hat. Here is the skin tone. Let's switch it up and use a skin tone that's a little more cooler red. Put it right behind the hat, like so. Add it here, and at this point you can pretty much connect it with the shadows on the arm. So they're kind of around here. And we're done with this top part. Now what's beautiful is now we're gonna make the switch to cooler temperature for her shirt. So I'm just gonna use some phthalo blue to mix it up. I don't have much here actually, so let's use that. And I'm just gonna, again, let it all touch. I really don't care. Let's actually add a bit of sap green to it to make it even more interesting. See? That's a beautiful play of temperature. Now, I didn't pay as much attention to edges as you've seen so far. I did blend a bit here. Let's blend this edge because this is a round shape, the belly, as we know it. So let's do this kind of thing. And then let's blend this side here. Let's give it a try. So now this is blended. The pens are, I'm going to use my viewfinder or whatever you want to call this to see them more accurately. They're actually quite warm. It's like a warm gray. So I'm going to add some warm colors here in the mix, and then just a bit of blue. And we're good to go. And this is all in the shadow, except for this highlight here. Notice how I'm getting my interest and my variation and my variety from the temperature as opposed to the value, because everything here is pretty much uniformal in the value. No variation, no serious variation. At least here it's a little darker than the shirt, sure enough, but nothing too serious. So most of my interest and variation come from temperature, and this is a part of me trying to figure out how I can use more types of language in watercolor, not just value. Because you know, a lot of what I do is about the value, but I want to try and develop myself in my language, as I said. So now let's return to some, let's do purple now for the shoes. A bit of purple, a carbazole violet, sorry. There are some shadow on it connected to the skin tone, and then directly onto the shadow, as I did before, like this, and going around the other figure for now. Let's continue with that last figure. Blonde hair. I'm going to add that to the mix. And again, a big part of it is in the light. So I'm going to do that kind of thing. Then there's the bun here, kind of like that. Connected directly with the skin tone. Let's use a bit of a stronger red this time. There's the glasses. Let's do an indication for them here. Shadow under the cheek. This, you have to look at it as some abstract shapes that mean nothing if you want to be accurate and not, you know, go crazy over the details. That's a big part of it. Now I'm going to connect it to the shoulder here. And notice how fast I'm working, and I really don't mind if I don't follow the shapes perfectly. What I care more about is the freshness of my wash. Freshness and spontaneity and fun with it. Now let's switch again to some blue and get this whole backside with some of that. Now I'm gonna merge it with her handbag side, what do you call it? I don't know. I don't even know. And the pants. Let's do the pants now too. And let's keep those highlights on the pants. Even though they're fairly dark, let's keep them. They look nice. Now I'm gonna connect it with, again, the handbag. That's the word, right? A handbag. Like this, and that'll really make sense, hopefully, that she's holding it. Now for the legs, a bit of red once again. Hopefully you enjoy seeing this kind of process, because I'm really going at it step by step. Then there's a bit of a shadow on the leg here and around here. This leg is almost completely in the shadow, just a couple of lights shining through. Let's add a bit more red to the mix. And notice I don't mix everything again. I'm just adding it to the center or to one area, and that's it. Let's add these here. Her shoes are more of a strong black. Let's add a bit of sepia maybe to the mix. Like that. Connect to the legs. Connect here as well. And then with the cast shadow. So now we're done with all of the figures. We're actually ready to tackle the background. So what I'm gonna do is darken everything up except for this part of the parasol that's a little lighter. I'm gonna switch to a thick Raphael brush. I'm gonna zoom out a bit, and this is where the beauty comes. So I'm gonna use a bit of a muted, cooler mix for the background to create that contrast with the foreground. I think this is good, and I still will not be tempted to push it too dark, okay? So just getting started, painting around that parasol here, like that. Let's get rid of this top bun of the parasol, so to speak. Let's go at it like that. Now I'm being a little looser because I'm filling in larger areas. And you can vary this wash if you want to. I'm not going to vary it too much because I don't feel the need to. There's quite a lot of variation with the people. I don't have too strong of an angle, but that's because I'm also using a very wet wash, plus it's a smaller area, relatively speaking. Fill it up. This negative painting will help put everything more in the light, a bit of everything really, just kind of mixing a muted color. Now here I have to pick up the pace a bit because I really took my time with the top section. But all I care about is leaving those highlights, you see? The shoulder, I have to fix its shape like that. Get this shape on the hat right. And then let's at least finish with this section here in the background. I missed the arm of that figure in the middle. I'm getting rid of some water on the brush because it's too much right now. I don't need all of that water. Let's fill in this gap. Let's finish this section because I'm almost done here. Like so. The ground is gonna stay white. And this is good for now. Now I have to work on the right section. And I feel like this parasol has a bit of a green reflection underneath it. So let's connect it. And around the bun. Kind of around the bun. This gap in between the women, like this. A bit more water, a bit more water. I need it to really flow. Here you see it's starting to dry a bit. But the background really is a big part of the magic with these kinds of scenes. And you kind of have to persevere, even if you don't like the way it looks in the middle stages. If you just power through it, it will end up looking nicely, looking nicer than you imagined, let's say. A bit stronger around here, around this arm, pants. Get rid of some of the paint around her leg, but leave that gentle highlight on the left side. Same here. And in between here, her arm has a watch on it, the figure on the right that I didn't get, but that's fine. And this is pretty much it. There's a good sense of light, there's a good sense of the figures, the gestures, they're talking. Let's add that arm that I missed earlier, right around here. And that way it will also blend in with the background, which is always a nice little effect. Let me show it to you up close. See? All the details, but still quite simplified. Barely anything here. And that's the beauty of watercolor. You can also add maybe a bit of something like this. I don't know if it's even necessary. You know what? It's not even necessary, but whatever. We added it. Kind of like a shadow on the shape or whatever. Let's do it like that. And yeah, this is pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this process. I'm gonna sign it and now let's wrap it up. Hey, so I hope you enjoyed this process. Let me give you one more look at it from up close. Hopefully the phone can focus. It's not really good at that kind of thing. But notice the beautiful harmony. One of my favorite parts here is actually the contrast between the turquoise blue-green here of the shirt of the woman in the middle and then the warmth of the skin tone. I think it works really well. So if you're having a hard time, you're frustrated with getting the right value and getting the realistic impression, try putting most of the work on the drawing stage, getting the shadows to look right in a simplified manner. Choose a high contrast reference photo and then draw the line of the shadow and then make a decision. Everything that's in the shadow is going to be a mid value. Everything that's in the light is going to be white, completely paper white. And then play on the variation in the colors and the harmony and temperature. That's a nice thing and it's fun. For people who are kind of rigid and tense, this is a really fun exercise to let go and enjoy. And again, if you want to let go and enjoy, be sure to check out my Frustration Free Watercolor course. It's good if you're a beginner to watercolor. If you've been trying it for a while and it doesn't work out for you, be sure to check it out. Description box below. I post a new course every long time, so now I really want to push it hard and hope that it can help many of you. I have you in mind when I created it. It's meant to solve a real problem that people have with watercolor painting, and also with just painting in general, I think. So in any case, I want to thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. Let me know in a comment down below your thoughts on this, if you ran into some challenges, if you need further help, follow-up questions, whatever it is, I'm here for you, and I will see you again in the next vid real soon.